What was the Industrial Revolution?
How did technology affect the society?
What progress did we make?
Let's find out. Wait, what?
Bad Realistic Evening! Today we're going to be talking about the Industrial Revolution.
Simply put, the Industrial Revolution was a period of time where there was a rapid development of industry that occurred in Britain and a few other countries during the late 18th and 19th century.
Governments and unions had a big job during this time, and many new ideas appeared.
Many good and bad ideas.
Many good and bad ideas. Strikes happened and infrastructure was changed. Child labor surfaced, culture went through two major events, and many more.
Now you may wonder, how does such a big revolution start all of a sudden? Well, it all started with this.
Cow!
Larger companies and factories were prominent after the start of industrialization, and there was a greater choice of products for the citizens, because machines worked faster than any human can do.
A major change that happened was that people ran by clock time instead of sun time. This didn't allow people to rest whenever they wanted to. They had to wait until the bell said so.
Farming did not allow for much money to be earned because there were technological advances and it was easier to grow plants.
Therefore, people flocked to the urban cities after seeing all the wealthy businessmen. In some places in the cities, the working conditions were abysmal. There were no safety precautions, and death occurred frequently.
Over time, the standard of living increased for two of the three social classes.
Social classes? What's that?
Let's find out.
During the Industrial Revolution, there were three social classes. First, the upper class, who were made up of wealthy business owners and could afford luxuries. They had access to education, new inventions, and were able to hire maids to do domestic household chores. The middle class got a lot of benefits because there were now a lot of open jobs. As the standard of living increased, they were able to buy newly affordable goods like furniture and fine clothing, giving themselves a comfortable life. The working class, or lower class, got the negative side of the Industrial Revolution. Additionally, they were also the biggest part of the labor pool during that time. Working conditions were abysmal, and when strikes happened, wealthy owners would simply hire others for the job. One example was the Triangle Factory fire. Many people burned to death because the building code was not properly enforced.
Simply put, they were stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Wow, that was so interesting. It almost seems like the narrator spent days researching the topic of social classes.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. Let's see. Unions.
Before we can talk about this, we have to talk about technology.
You're supposed to be talking now. Oh yes, you see this phone in my hand? That's technology. But technology could bring machines and various inventions. This brings us to one question. How does technology impact the society?
Some workers, named Luddites, became disgruntled and scared that the machines will eventually replace them.
This is where unions come in. Labor unions were formed during the Industrial Revolution to fight for the right of workers and improve working conditions.
Due to the government lack of input towards assisting the workers in improving their conditions, people were forced to unite and bond together. It helped the community grow stronger as their trust and hope relies and depends on one another.
They were reformers.
Another example is the Factory Act of 1883, which the government passed to stop child labor. It was good for the children who were free from work,
But it was horrible for the business owners who had to stop exploiting children for money. They lost money and weren't able to earn as much as before.
Well, 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 look at the time.
oh, A primary source.
This primary source shows the journal of a man called Louis W. Hine. He reported on the poor working conditions of children who worked in factories. You can tell that he does not feel that children deserve this and that they should be treated much better. Reports and editorials published about strikes were influential in promoting child labor laws and an enforced 8-hour workday, which unions commonly fight for. So, they were an important part of the Industrial Revolution. However, unions sometimes lost the battle.
Several major strikes took place due to the government not enforcing laws about factory workers, raising wages, and improving working conditions. The Great Railroad Strike of 1887, the Homestead Steel Mills Strike of 1892, etc. When the Ludlow Massacre of 1915 ended, the miners surrendered to the owners. It was still a defeat to the Wilson and the people. Sometimes the union strikers didn't obtain their demands from the company. The union did not obtain recognition, and the striking workers were replaced. The effects of these strikes included violence, destruction of property, chaos, and death.
The government had even passed laws such as the Combination Act to illegalize the formation of unions, which is basically a form of union busting.
That was bad for the unions, of course.
However, this also pushed free market capitalism and voting rights as well, which was great for the society.
You know what else was great for the society? Improved infrastructure.
In 1750, there were nearly 1,400 miles of movable waterways. Canals improved and decreased the price of transportation of supplies while carrying 10 times the load a normal mule or horse could.
The improved rate of production and cheaper prices and supplies led to the mass consumption of customers, leading to a huge economy boom that the government benefited from.
We started off with a mere invention and advancement in technology, and it started this whole chain reaction.
And that, my friend, is how government and unions affected society during the Industrial Revolution.
And vice versa. As communication and transportation were being improved upon, people were accustomed to a faster life. How did culture change during the Industrial Revolution? 2 words: Romanticism and realism.
Romanticism was an artistic, literary, musical, and intellectual movement that started in Europe towards the end of the 18th century.
It had a significant effect on politics, with Romantic thinkers influencing liberalism and nationalism.
Before Romanticism, artists painted the Neoclassicism, which had balanced, symmetrical nature.
Boring.
Romanticism was partly a reaction to the principle that was shared during the Industrial Revolution. Plain art became boring for the new generation that were born in such faster-moving life of machinery.
Nationalistic music emerged early in the 19th century in connection with political independence movements.
The composers include Beethoven, Schubert, Chopin, and Bellini.
The realism movement began in France in the 1800s after the 1848 Revolution, which led to the fall of the Orleans monarchy and to the creation of the French Second Republic.
They sought to portray real people and situation. People focused at the dark underbelly of the Industrial Revolution in order to work on society problem.
Before the Industrial Revolution, many people could not afford to hire a musician to play music or to learn an instrument. However, after the rise of the middle class, more and more people were exposed to music. Instruments became cheaper, and so masses were able to afford them.
Many major events occurred for the period of Industrial Revolution. To sum up, let's take a look at the government and unions Industrial Revolution timeline.
Union formations, government laws, and new inventions were all a big part of the Industrial Revolution.
And that's a wrap. Remember to like, comment,
And subscribe!
Don't forget to turn on your notifications.
Because we're never going to post another video ever again.